conflict of interest. All right, that makes sense. That would work. So a lot of organizations, of course, have two different teams, or at least two different individuals focused in on security as well as operations. One is focusing on the availability concerns and keeping things up and operational, and the other is focused in on making sure that those things are up, they're only up to the right people. So I point that out up front. Many small organizations such as mine, many people wear many hats. And I wear both hats for the team I work with. I point that out because I'm counting on you guys all to keep me honest. Today I'm going to be talking about business continuity, risk management. I want to provide a good balanced view into both of those from both the operations and the security perspective. So today's topic is co-opting business continuity to advance security. Coerce, cajole your organization into a better secure state. And we're out here at Grand Rapids, and I'm really excited to be here. Did you guys see that the lift up, the sing-along in Grand Rapids, where everyone's singing along to American Flag? I thought that was awesome. I'm like, I gotta get to Grand Rapids. I haven't been there forever. I think the last time I was here, I was probably like 16 and had a girlfriend around the corner, and I was driving from Detroit. So it's really excited to be here. I saw the GrrCON paper come up. I'm like, hey, I gotta go see this. So this is it's a new talk and an idea that I've been thinking about a lot recently. Are we good? We're gonna need slides. The actual PowerPoint. That one. So can we transfer it? All right, we're on to computer number 3. I'd like to point out that my slides are so secure that 3 computers cannot read them. That's how you know they're high quality. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Today, the hat is, this is security. This is security. The whole thing about security, right, is how to make something really secure. You take your file, you put it in a format no one can read, you put it on a hard drive that's encrypted, you take that computer, and you bury it in concrete. Now you're secure. And it couldn't have worked out better. I'm at the Amway Hotel. Anyone else here at the Amway today? Right down the way, it's a good place. Did you guys notice there's a concrete convention going on? I kid you guys not. I'm walking in, there's a concrete convention. I'm riding up the elevator with this guy. I'm like, you know what? Concrete is awesome because in security, what we always say is we want something to be secure. We bury concrete. He starts thinking, you can see the wheels turning. He goes, yeah, that's true. But today's concrete, today's Sullivan's, I probably could get that computer. I'm like, damn, hacking concrete. You gotta come to GrrCON. This is fantastic. Come with me. You can talk at my side something. So we're good. We're fantastic. All right. Right there. All right. So yeah, quick recap. My name's Wolf Goerlich. I'm a walking conflict of interest. I'm going to provide a balanced look. If you haven't seen the lift up, you should see it. It's awesome. Experience Grand Rapids. And another thing that caught my attention about GrrCON that I thought was really cool was the division between the two tracks, right? We got the technical track, which Moxie kicked off, and of course we got the executive management track, which we're all sitting in. And SecBiz, security in the business, is a topic we've been talking about on Twitter and now spilled over to LinkedIn, and that really encapsulates that concept. How can you take the top-down approach from security, focusing on the people, and how can you take the bottom-up approach and focusing on technology? So the technology folks, we've got lots of good hacks. We've got some fantastic talks today that just blow my mind with how you can manipulate things and you can get in and really get at the systems. For the top-down perspective, though, I think we don't really have a good foundation today in terms of people hacks. What are the ways that we can hack the system, hack the executive management team to better our security posture, to better our security environment, to get sponsorship and executive backing for our security controls. So when we go to do something, they're not saying, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, Wolf, but my guys really need to work, so can you remove that? But we need some good people hacks. So this is an idea that's been percolating for the past month or so. And the idea is this: how can we socially engineer organizations for our organization's own damn good? How can we take these social engineering concepts and apply them in a way that allows us to find the right levers to pull, the right things to say, the right ways to present to the executive team, to the business units so that we can get what we need to further the information security posture. And who knows, maybe we can get a CEPH piece of paper out of this, right? A good old certified ethical people hacker. I'm joking, of course, but CEH is a pretty good example of a people hack, right? You take something like hacking, which the media has terrified everyone of, right? It's a hacking conference in Grand Rapids. No one go downtown. Who knows what those guys might do to you? You say it's ethical, right? So, all right, they might do something bad, but they'll be for your own good. And now it's a certification, so we can get our companies to pay for it. This is fantastic. I love this. So really, what we're talking about in terms of people hacking, in my way of thinking, is how can we ethically approach the business unit? How can we uphold what's right for our organization, what's right for our profession, and yet go about getting things done with people. And so a quick recap of social engineering. We got some good social engineering talks today. Hook, line, and sinker, hack and trust. And stick around, they'll go into much more detail. But at the very top level, 4 ways. You're going to identify your tower, you're going to mimic your organization, you're going to blend into the think you're part of your organization. And then you're going to exploit. You're going to go for what you want, grab the data, and run. Which works great for a social engineering hack. From a psych biz perspective, you can't really run, right? Because you're going to run from their office to your office, and they know where you are. So we got to tweak it just a little bit, but I'd argue it's still the same steps. We got to find a goal, something in our information security program that, frankly, is not working that we want to improve. We got to speak the language of the business, find alignment, find what they need, meet that needs in the way that meets our needs, and can push the discussion forward. So I call this the flaming asteroids hack, the falling asteroids hack. With apologies to InfoSec Rogue, who's been helping me out with the computer. And in terms of anyone who's looked at Twitter, this does not involve dinosaurs, so the rumors are not true. I'm really sorry to say. But what we're talking about here is, our business guys, right, our executive teams, they have needs, right? They have wants. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Their needs and wants are probably not information security risk management. Just going out on a limb there. No, that's generally our focus. It's not theirs. So in terms of falling asteroid hack, how can we determine what they need, what they want, so that we can leverage that to get what we need and we want? And again, no dinosaurs. Sorry. Bit of background first. We have a problem. We're screwed. Maybe that's an overstatement. But system security. You get this from the technical hack or technical track. We all know this. We see this every day. How do we secure something? Well, we spend a lot of time with it. Anyone who went to Moxie's talk realizes that he spent way more time with SSL certificates than pretty much anybody. It's amazing. So you got to spend a lot of time with it. You got to know your system. You know your technology very intimately. But of course, that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of focus. When I say intimately, I'm not talking about sleeping with your equipment. But frankly, that might not be a bad idea. From my experience from a couple of Google searches, it looks like a full-time security professional today is responsible for around 5,000 network devices, okay? So you got 5,000 network devices, 5,000 blinking boxes. If you're full-time, that you're responsible for securing. So you want to be hands-on. You want to be full in, right? You roll up your sleeves. You're going to spend all the time you can with that equipment. You're going to, not take breaks. Forget it. You're going to drink lots of coffee so you can work fast. You're going to do whatever you need to do to make sure you fully understand the system. 4 hours or 12 hours a day. Forget weekends, forget breaks. 365 days a year. You do that math, and it works out to be 4,000 hours and change. You never get to spend more than an hour securing any piece of that incredibly complex IT infrastructure. And that, of course, doesn't even take into account any of the other things that a security manager has to deal with, right? Typical security guy's got 1,000 employees, got 20 IT people. You got policies, you got procedures. You got people who are interested in more things in risk management calling you and sending you emails. There just isn't enough time to get all the work done today. And of course, the work isn't a moving target. The other stats came from my own experience from Google. These stats come from McAfee. McAfee said in 2010 that around 10,000 pieces of new malware hit the street every single day. Around 100 new vulnerabilities are discovered every single day. And news articles, tweets, Google Plus posts, blogs, papers, maybe 100, 1,000, maybe more. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of stuff going on, tremendous amount of information coming out. I did an experiment a while ago, because I was really trying to get a handle on this, all this information. So All right, that's good. I want to be the best I can be. How long will it take me to rerun this worth of news? So I picked a day at random, and I pulled down all the information. I read every single piece of information, top to bottom. Didn't skip every single thing. Technical things, again, like Max's talk was convergence, so I want to go play with convergence, okay? All the technical topics, brought them in-house, and tested them, tried them out. It took me about a week. It took me about a week to catch up on 1 day's worth of information. And of course, by that point in time, I'm 5 days out of date. So every single day, you've got a whole new week's worth of information that you're behind on. It's really fast, it's really large, it's really complex for security people today. And there's my own experience. There's probably someone out there who's got one system, 4 or 5 devices. His users leave him alone. His executive team gives him all the money he wants, and he doesn't have that much information he needs to speed reader. And that person is fantastic. If you're in the audience, see me afterwards and let me know if there's a position where you work. Because to me, security looks something like this. Security is it's the Greek myth, right? Each one of these systems is a weight on our shoulders. Each one is a boulder that we're responsible for. Each one is a boulder we're pushing up that hill every day. We're reading, we're testing, we're figuring things out. We're looking at the news, we're looking at the articles, reading the documentation. God forbid, we're reading the manuals, and we push that boulder all the way up to the top of the hill. Okay, and we take a good deep breath, stretch and relax a bit, because damn, the system is finally secure. It's not buried in concrete. It's secure. We're good. And we go home the next day, 1,000 new pieces of malware. Next day, 100 new vulnerabilities, and that boulder just roll back down the hill. So security is like a Greek myth, but unlike a Greek myth, we're not talking about one boulder, because most of us aren't responsible for one system. You got 5,000 devices, so that's what? 10 to 100 systems that you're responsible for. Each one of boulders with the weight on your shoulders. Each one, documentation about this thick. Each one in a various stage from the bottom of the canyon all the way to the top of the mountain in terms of security. Each system a possible way to be compromised and to have your company's name splashed across the papers. So we got a problem. We got a problem because we've got too much. We got a problem because we've got too much to do. And we can't brute force it because we don't have enough time in the day. And besides, brute force never really works well, right? There's that old story about Thomas Edison. Okay, so Thomas Edison, he was a kid. Right? Yeah, I got the cap on. I picture on the statues and see and everything. He's a kid, he's in Detroit, and he wants to be full in, hands-on, he wants to know everything there is. So he goes to the library, slaps down his library card, checks out a book, goes back to the library next day, slaps down his library card, checks out a book. Next day, slaps down the library card. The library goes, what are you trying to do? What is this all about? Why are you here every day? Thomas Edison goes, well, I want to know everything going on, so I'm reading the library. Yeah, I think he got maybe a bookshelf in before he realized that this isn't going to work. We can't brute force that much information. And security is the same way today. You want to know everything that's going on in security? No problem. Come to GrrCON, come to other conferences, and get on Google and read the internet. Easy, if you've got the time. So the problem is prioritization. And the answer is to realize that we don't need to push every boulder uphill. The real goal for a security manager typically is to protect the organization's ability to perform the organization's mission. We want to protect the organization, its ability to do what it needs to do, not simply push every IT asset up the hill, push every boulder up the hill. And this statement comes from NIST 830, the special publication on risk management. And that hit me hard. Risk management was really exciting when I found it. It was like bleary-eyed trying to keep up with bombs and exploits. Dragging myself half dead from the coffee pot to the data center, back to the coffee pot. And so I was like, yeah, risk management is what we need. This is perfect. Which unfortunately woke the cat, woke the wife, got me smacked. Maybe it wasn't risk management that hit me hard, but the bottom line is we have a way to prioritize information today. But wait a minute now, so we look at risk management, that's about saying, okay, what's most likely to happen? And what's the impact, okay, to the organization? You multiply the two, and those are the things we should really focus in on. And that makes perfect sense. But you step back and say, all right, what's the impact, what's the likelihood? Well, wait a minute, we've got thousands of employees, okay? And they're working on tens of hundreds of systems that are spread across 5,000 devices. You get 20 IT guys doing who knows what, who knows when, who knows why, to enable new functionality to keep this complex machine running and to make the end users happy. And it really does beg the question. I mean, you can say, okay, those 1,000 employees, they're all security conscientious, right? They know. Right? Those 20 IT guys, they would never, ever remove security control or weaken make everyone administrators to get something done on time. But even in the best case scenario, you got to ask yourself, what the hell does all this stuff do? We got all this technology, what does it really mean? What is it being used for? So that gets us back to social engineering, okay? We need a clear goal, and that clear goal, in my mind, is to figure out what the hell all this stuff does. We've got all these IT assets. What do they really mean to the organization in terms of the organization's mission? I'm going to speed through a couple slides here. So I call this the falling asteroid hack. Again, our executives have needs, our executives have concerns. Those needs and concerns are probably not security risk management. Again, if they are for your executives, please let me know. I can use another job. In my environment, our needs and executives are, or the needs of my executives are, keep the organization running. Asteroid slams into the data center, we're out of business. What are we going to do to make sure that never happens? What are we going to do to make sure that we keep making money? Worse yet, so we're a financial services firm and equity markets are trading. That asteroid hits the day after the S&P downgrades U.S. credit again. And the markets are going nuts, okay? So we got to trade. We got to be back in the game. Otherwise, we're going to lose lots of assets. We're going to lose lots of dollars. We'll probably hit fines because of SLAs. So I think this is it. I think that the executive team needs to keep the organization running, the business doing the business of the business, making money, and possibly we could find some alignment there. Of course, the other thing that I hear from my executive team is, what are you going to do when your top guy gets hit by a bus? What are you going to do when your top guy gets hit by a bus? Maybe that's an in too. I could have used that. I was frankly a little bit concerned about who would come to a hacking con if I said, hey, come on down, I'll tell you about how to improve with security by getting your top guy hit by a bus. Maybe not. So business continuity. Business continuity is a interesting thing in terms of keeping the lights on, routing dial tone, keeping the wheels on the bus, all that great business speak for uptime and availability. Business continuity is one of the 10 domains of security according to ISC squared for you ISSP fans out there, which makes it pretty interesting because it is considered part of security, even though it isn't generally talked about as much as security conferences. That also makes it kind of interesting because even though it is a little bit dull, I mean, hey, it'd be much more exciting fighting hackers, fighting anon, beating lulls back off your doorstep. But it does provide us some interesting social engineering aspects because when the business is down, we don't have dial tone. When the executive picks up his phone and there's no light on it, that is something that, it's something that gets attention. That's something that is going to go very high, very fast. Now, when you get spearphished, okay, you get spearphished to one of your directors, yeah, the guy feels foolish, but it's not going to really bubble up the same way as being down. So business continuity has some interesting aspects. At top level, business continuity looks like this. I'm not going to spend much time on it because I'm already running a little bit behind, but it's ongoing, and the disaster recovery's IT component focused primarily on the systems and applications. So at top level, what is it we're trying to protect? What is it we want to keep operational and make sure that we can do? What it boils down to in terms of the organization's mission is the business process. So we got all this IT stuff, okay? We don't really know. We know what we're paying for it. We know what we're paying Microsoft, VMware, or whatever, and it's open source. We know what we're not paying for it. But we don't necessarily know what it really means to the organization's mission. So one way to do that is to start at the applications. Applications are everywhere. They can be a nightmare. Today's one-off is tomorrow's must-have. They sneak in on people's coattails, it seems like. They are the barnacles on the prowl of IT. Their applications are a pain. But applications are, of course, enabling some business process. So we know what that business process is that's being enabled. We can then look at how that business process bubbles up to the organization's mission. And also, if we know what those applications are, we can say, all right, what infrastructure is supporting those apps? So we take client services, for example, and client services is using, a portfolio system like CRM, and those are on server A and server B, and they require some switching, some data centers. So we can track back to front, front to back, what any piece of equipment means to the organization. And then we can look at, now that we know what we have, what's going to happen when that breaks? What's going to happen when that's unavailable? Now, it used to drive me nuts when I was consulting on business continuity, and if you asked, hey, what if an asteroid hits us? What if a jet engine falls from the sky? What if a terrorist takes a remote control airplane, flies it right into my server rack? There's just tens to hundreds of thousands of things that could possibly go wrong. And trying to enumerate each one of those, trying to figure out what could possibly happen would drive you nuts in terms of business continuity. So I have to boil things down to 4 impacts, possibly 5. The 4 impacts from an IT perspective is your apps down, your servers down, your sites down, and or your communications are down. The 5th one would be that people, right? Your person's been hit by a bus, key people. But if you look at those 4 general impacts, you look at 3 time frames. Same day, the power blinked, now it's back. Short term, we had rain, or not rain, but sprinklers went off and damaged equipment. Long term, we're down because of a tornado wiped out a data center. Same day, days to weeks, weeks to months. 3 time frames, 4 impacts. You're looking at a matrix of about 12 things that you really need to care about. So you can go from tens to hundreds of thousands of different obscure things that might happen to an organization, boil them down to the top 12. And then we can do the impact analysis. So the impact analysis to me is probably the most interesting aspect of business continuity. The impact analysis takes all the applications, takes all that stuff, maps it up to a business process and says, okay, if that business process can't complete the mission of the business, or can't complete what it needs to do, what does that mean to the organization's mission? If it's a profit center, what type of revenue are we going to lose, right? If it's a cost center, what are we going to have to pay to redo all this work? So we can take a look at the business process and determine that pretty close to a dollar value of what it really means. Now, we already know what all the IT stuff is that's enabling that business process, so we can feed it up and make some intelligent decisions as to what IT assets are really important. And we can do something cool. We can create a budget as to how to keep it up. So when I was designing the slide deck, a good friend of mine called me, and known him for many years. God help him. He's actually been to my talks, so he really should have known better. He calls me up and he goes, "Hey Wolf, I've got $20,000. Okay, what's the best disaster recovery I can buy?" Well, what is it you're trying to protect against? What type of dollar value is at risk? Because I don't know, probably $20,000 worth. Like, have you analyzed it? No. Do you know $20,000 is the right amount? No. But I really want to spend it. No, probably not the best idea. Because from a top level, your controls around business continuity, your controls around disaster recovery should be matched to the IT assets it protects. So if you know what value your IT assets are delivering, you can then say, okay, this is how much money, based on those assets, we should spend to make sure that we can bring them up in another site. Or heck, they're not very valuable. We're not going to spend anything. We're just going to rebuild them if we need to. And this is pretty interesting because A, you can then say, well, look, we've got this IT stuff, and I'm paying $20,000 to protect it, and it's worth $30,000. I am a hero. I'm an IT hero. I am paying a lot less. And you can prove that to your management team, which is very good because they're always asking to save money, right? Or you can say, it's $30,000 of asset exposure, but I'm only paying $1,000. We're really in a bad spot here. Something could happen, and we don't have good controls, which then allows you to go to your executive team and prove it out on paper in a way that makes sense to them and say, we need a bit better budget here to keep the wheels on the bus. And then we can build our recovery strategy. That friend of mine who called me? I know, he just wanted to get to his happy place. I understand. It's much more fun. I mean, we all got an IT, we all got an infosec, so we want to put things together, we want to take things apart. And we want to build recovery strategies in terms of business continuity. We want to build something that can keep the business going in terms of clustering and availability, and the list goes on and on. But then we can take all these tiers of different business processes. Some are worth a lot of money, some are not worth very much, some are right in the middle, and we can come up with different strategies, 2, 3, 4, to keep everything operational. And then we can look at all the recovery tiers. Again, we don't have much time, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. And my simple point is that the higher the tier, the higher the amount of money you're going to pay, the higher the value the business process should be, and the lower the tier, or the lower the money you should pay. And you can simply say to some business process, look, if you've lost your iPad, I don't care about your Angry Birds data. In terms of the mission of the organization, we're going to replace it. You can get your score back up later. It's okay. So once we've got some idea of what our recovery strategy is, we can go ahead and race it. We can build some metrics around it. It's kind of interesting to me, anyways. and which is in Grand Rapids. This will be a little bit of our story. It was actually in Chicago in 1895, when they were just trying to at least get a car to move, okay? 1895 was like the X86 release of cars. And what are they doing? They're out in Chicago racing the damn things. Can barely keep moving, and they're racing them. A few years later, after that, Henry Ford, you know, the engineer's engineer out on Lake St. Clair, frozen Lake St. Clair, set the world speed record with his car. It's not, Model T wasn't even in production, and he's out racing the damn thing. And we built something cool. We want to see how fast it can go. So the metric that we use when we try to see how fast we can go with recovery is RTO, right? How quick can you get back up and operational? When my team does disaster recovery drills, we do them a few times a year. I put up a big clock. We actually see how many minutes it takes, and we get kind of excited when we get real fast. But we see how fast we can get everything back up and operational. And of course, some things you're willing to pay more to keep it down for a while, and other things you're willing to pay more to get it back up real quickly. So RTO is how long it takes to recover things. Flip the recoveries. RPO is rework, all right? So if you're restoring from a week's backup, you've got to redo a week's worth of work. Restoring from a day's back, you get a day's worth of work, and so on. And a bunch of other metrics. One thing to point out from a security perspective that I can see being overlooked in business continuity is when you fail over, you want to make sure that you're failing over the same control structure, okay? So we got everything in the Tier 3 data center. We got concrete walls, we've got a great lock, everything's fantastic. But if that is unavailable, we're going to recover that computer over to Sue's desk. It's got VirtualBox, virtualize everything. Probably not the same controls. So we want to make sure we bring things up in a secure fashion. Quick summary of BCP, you know, one of the 10 domains of security: get things running, keep things operational, and go forward. So BCP to risk management is like peanut butter and jelly. That's not that far past breakfast. I'm already getting hungry. But the two go together real well. Damn, man. The interesting thing about risk management is business continuity is nice because the people aren't out to get you, right? The tornado didn't purposely aim for your building. With risk management, you piss someone off, you're in the news, Lulz is out to get you, and they're trying to get at you. So with risk management, we have some active threats. And that comes back down to building system characterization, figuring out what we have, and looking at the threat agents, you know, who's out to get you. And there's some nice overlap on threat agents between natural disasters, because that, of course, applies to business continuity. And threat agents are often looking at the external folks, the internal folks, who's out to do you harm. So one of the things that's nice about, or sorry, not nice, but interesting about, and nice is nice, right? Interesting about threat agents is some of the work that's being done in risk management around threat agent modeling. Sierra Society for Information Risk Analysts, they do a webinar every month. About a month back, they did one with Matt Rosenquist, Intel. He's the Matt Rosenquist security analyst for Intel, and they're doing something with threat agents as opposed to risk management as I'm presenting here, which is very much asset-based. This is what we have. This is what's important. This is what we should be spending our time on. They actually look at threats. Their whole model, TARA, Threat Agent Risk Assessment, is based on how bad someone really wants to get you. So there's some interesting stuff being done around threat agents. And of course, what they're going to do to you, and you know, what could possibly go wrong. If you look at some of the ways that people do risk assessment, this is NIST 830, ISO 2075, the FAIR method. They're all looking at the same thing. This goes right back to business continuity. They're all trying to answer the question, what the hell does all this stuff do? What does it really mean to the organization's mission? If we can go back to front and front to back with IT assets, business processes, and the overall organization's mission, we can determine the value of any given IT piece of equipment. Now, the difference between risk assessments and business continuity and analysts is just simply one of scope, right? We're either talking confidentiality for BCP or confidentiality, integrity, availability for risk management. So it's a little bit bigger, but it's really the same basic question. Something bad's going to happen, and what is it going to cost us? Once we figure that out, we can then begin to figure out what type of controls we should be putting in place to avert that cost. Because ideally, the cost of security shouldn't exceed the value of the assets it protects. Same with business continuity. We want to be making intelligent spends, and better yet, being able to justify to executive management the spends we're making based around the value of the IT assets. And that allows us to do a risk-based approach. I love risk-based approaches. I've never got 100 things to do, and I can say, look, there's only 10 that's really important. I'm doing a risk-based approach today. Those 90, they're going to wait. That makes me happy. Because, if you're looking at tens to hundreds of systems, most of those really probably aren't that important to the organization. Maybe the 1 to 10 is, maybe 1 to 20. And those are the ones that we can really focus in on. Those are the ones that we can really do the deep dive on, all the manuals. Those are the ones we want to make sure that we're pushing the boulders uphill, because those are the ones that obviously are the most important. And a simple way to track that is the old formula: risk times asset value times threat times vulnerability. A lot of times we see that people just do risk times threat times vulnerability because that's easy, right? We can figure out how vulnerable things are, what our threat are. And the challenge there is if you do that, if you don't have a good solid impact analysis, if you don't know what your business value is, you can't really be entirely sure that you're spending the time and your team's time and your budget, and of course everything that goes along with that, on the right systems and on the right risks. So it all comes back to impact analysis. Once we got that, we can go ahead and get back to our IT happy guy place. We can go ahead and do something. We can go ahead and patch it, add controls, sink it in concrete, whatever it may be. You can eliminate the risk, by focusing a lot of time on it, figuring out the most secure way to put the system in place. We can reduce it, transfer it, accept it, etc. And we can build some metrics around it. We can see, now that we've got a control environment, how can we optimize that control environment? How can we raise that control environment? How can we make it better and better? And there's a whole bunch of different metrics that people use for that. Emerging risks and mitigated risks, I find to be pretty exciting, because it's, hey, how fast are things coming at you and how fast are we responding? And that tells me how good my team is being in terms of productivity. And that also lets me say, hey, maybe I need some more staff. Maybe I can justify more members. So a quick summary, risk management, one of the 10 domains of IC squared security. Those are looking at CPs. It's two domains for 1 hour. I hope that's a good metric. Should put that on a slide. So how do asteroids falling from the sky improve security posture? Again, I'm sorry, it's not dinosaurs. I know. It also isn't the fact that an asteroid hits the data center and now your data is smashed and no one can get at it, although that would be a benefit. The IT guy who gets hit by a bus improves security. It's not because now I can't make any more insecure changes when you're not looking. That might be a benefit. Now, what I'm thinking about in terms of social engineering is what the concerns of the executive team may be, and how can we meet those concerns in a fashion that allows us to build a better security program. The concerns of the executive team is, hey, we need to keep the business in the business of doing business. Well, great, we'll do business continuity. And to do that, we need to do a risk or impact analysis. We're just going to make that impact analysis a little bit bigger, and that'll give us a whole bunch more benefits. So from a social engineering perspective, simply going through, clear goal, speak the language, find alignment. Let's get this thing done. When we look at security from the lens of risk, it's a little bit different. I can look at any one piece of equipment in my environment. I can say, that could be a risk. I can look at a Windows box and say, why the hell do I got DNS on it? That's probably not a good thing. But by focusing on the risk profile and focusing my efforts, my team's efforts, on reducing that risk, we can be making sure that we're making good decisions to improve the security posture in ways that reflect all the way up to the organization's mission. One of the things that is interesting about reducing risk, I had a conversation actually about a week ago with my compliance officer. He's like, Wolf, I noticed that now that we've got this data center, it's a great data center, but we got a cage around it, and that's all good, so no one can get at it. I was thinking, someone could probably bring a can of soda or coffee and just splash it to the cage, right? What controls do we have to prevent that? That's a good question. What's really the risk here? Has it ever happened? No. Do we have a lot of people with access to the space? No. Do we have administrative controls that say, hey, you've signed a piece of paper that says you won't bring drinks in there? Yeah. I don't know that we want to spend $50,000 on a plastic shield. We can, if you guys want to give me the budget, but I don't know that's a good way to increase the overall security posture. You know, it makes for some interesting conversations. Some pros to this approach, you know, more effective and focused IT security, trying to keep up and trying to brute force through a infrastructure with thousands and thousands of devices. It doesn't scale well. In my way of thinking, it isn't effective. If we can focus in on the top 10 or 15 systems that really matter to the organization, we can spend more time with them and make sure they're more secure. And we can really harden those hosts. You know, you think of like your DMZ, right? You want to spend your time in your DMZ if you're strictly thinking from an infrastructure perspective. Well, similarly, if you want to focus your efforts strictly on not the things that are maybe most at risk for outside attack, but the things that are most at risk for causing harm to the organization, you can focus all your efforts on those top 10 systems. Some indirect benefits, you know, we got better conversations with the executive team. Again, I'd much rather say, hey, here's our cost exposure, here's our risk, this is why I need $50,000, as opposed to saying, you know, I'm seeing a lot of weird traffic on my firewall, 3389, there's this worm going around, I could really use that SIM. Can I get 50,000? Two different conversations. Aligning with the executive team is one thing, aligning IT with the business is another. I think that's like the golden rule, everyone wants to do that. We're not quite there yet, and I don't pretend that this will get us there, but I think impact analysis is a very good way to get started. Some cons, and I know what I've got, 1 minute, 2 minutes? 1 minute, okay. Cons real quick. Cons real quick, you know, our security, the score may not be accurate, okay? Tornado Guard, the mission of Tornado Guard is to protect us from tornadoes. One person said, yeah, it doesn't do that. Everyone else said, hey, but everything else is great about it. But when you boil that down, that score may not be entirely accurate. The other con is you may have a door that protects your data center, right? Uneven security controls. It's a solid steel door. No one's getting through that thing. It's got a lock so tough that Radis and the GrrCON locked the key valve. You couldn't even get through it. Is there such a lock? I don't know. But people are not going to try and go through it. They're going to walk around. So if you say we're prioritizing, then obviously there's always going to be a chance that something is going to get attacked, something's going to get broken into, and we're going to make sure that something does not impact the actual mission of the organization. You know, CIA website gets hacked. No big deal. The CIA can still do what they do. And what can I flip through here just to wrap this up? Yeah, I'm wrapping it up. I'm good. So key takeaways, next steps. You know, social engineering your organization for your organization's own good. That's what I've been thinking about. How can we use the social engineering techniques, get better people hacks to move the discussion forward? A couple of links to look at is the Society of Information Risks, and they get some great webinars up there every month. SecBiz, and both of these are also on Twitter. And I will wrap that up. I hope everyone has a great GrrCON. Thanks for the time and your patience today. And talk to you later. Cheers.